Impossibly Glamorous Studios presents Tea with Charles, starring Charles St. Anthony.
Coming at you from our studio in fabulous Los Angeles, this is another episode of the Tea with Charles podcast. I am your host, Charles St. Anthony. Joining me today is a legendary man in the world of radio. He's known for hosting radio shows in Hawaii, Japan, Taiwan. He's worldwide. A longtime friend and all-around wonderful guy. Tea with Charles is rolling out the red carpet for the one and only DJ Kamasami Kong!
Charles, what an introduction. Wow. I've never seen or heard you so excited before. That was incredible.
Why, thank you, Kong. It's great to see you.
Great to see you, too. We are looking at each other on the screen.
You look great. I'm feeling good here, Los Angeles, on a Friday night.
You're looking great, Charles. It's going great over here in Tokyo, having a good time, except, the Olympics, as you may have heard, are kind of been canceled. So although we all want to go to see some of these great sports, we can't go because they're not allowing any spectators to go in. And the people here in Tokyo are just livid about that. Nobody likes it.
It sounds like the Olympics in Japan have been kind of a complete fiasco. DJ Kamasami Kong, legendary FM radio talent, thank you for joining us today. And I've been thinking about you because I listen to Sirius XM a lot here in the States, and they've been having an all-Prince station. You turn it on, and it's all Prince songs, deep cuts by Prince, people Prince has produced. And it makes me think of you because you have one of the best stories ever about meeting Prince. So set up the stage, Kong. Tell us about when you met the Purple One.
All right. Well, it was after one of his concerts here in Japan, in Osaka. He had just put on a fantastic concert, probably one of the best concerts I have ever seen as far as musicianship is concerned, because he just jammed. He had a great time. I had a beautiful date, and she was very, very impressed. This is just a little side note. And I thought because I took her to the Prince concert, there might be some action happening after the concert.
You're saying you got the look.
She had the look for me. Yeah, but she just wanted to go home. So that was the end of that. So I went back to my hotel. And at that time, I was staying in Osaka at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, 31st floor, with a panoramic view of the city of Osaka, the second largest city in Japan. And I guess it was around midnight, something like that. The radio station manager called me, and he said, I just received a phone call from the Prince people, and he would like to talk to someone from our radio station. Can you please go to this nightclub in Amemura, in Shinsaibashi area of Osaka?
They said go to the club in Shinsaibashi, was the area of Osaka?
Yes, that's right. And there was a nightclub just across the street from a small park called Sangaku Koen, which means Triangle Park. And it's a 4-story club. And they said, go up to the 4th floor, the VIP lounge. Prince will be there waiting for you. He wants to talk. He wants to talk about music, entertainment in Japan.
Prince is waiting for you.
Yeah, Prince is waiting for me. I dutifully went up to the 4th floor, walked into the VIP lounge, where the first thing I saw was a jacuzzi. There was a jacuzzi right in front of the door. Then, as I start to walk back past the bar, there's like a living room area set up with sofas and chairs and curtains for privacy. And then I'm greeted by what I thought was a young boy who said to me, may I help you? I'm looking around and I'm thinking, well, where is Prince? Prince has got to be here somewhere. And this little boy, as it turns out, he looks like a little boy without his makeup. He didn't have his platform shoes on, no makeup. And I thought, oh my God, you're Prince. I said, oh, Prince, nice to meet you. And at this point he says, and he was speaking really fast, he says, depending on how you answer this next question will determine whether or not you'll be spending any more time with us. And I said, okay, what's the question? He said,
yeah, how'd you answer that?
He said to me, who makes the music?
Who makes the music?
Who makes the music? Who makes the music? I said, you do, Prince. He said, come on in. Just like that.
Come on in. And so you got to come into the VIP section of a club in Osaka.
The VIP section of the VIP section.
Oh, so this is the VIPs of the VIPs.
Yeah, exactly. And Maceo Parker was there also. Maceo Parker, of course, a saxophone player, originally from James Brown, but he was together performing in this concert with Prince. That gives you some idea about the caliber of music that was being performed earlier that same night at the concert hall.
Wow, that's incredible. So you get to go in there and hang out with Prince. Prince was known for having the most luscious, beautiful ladies with him. Was there like this entourage of women that looked like Apollonia and Sheila E. and all that?
I wish I could say there were women there, but there was only one woman there, and she seemed to be in charge of what was going on, his manager or something like that. And she was just kind of laid back, making sure that everything remained copacetic, because apparently there was some friction going on between Prince and Maceo Parker. They were having a bit of an argument about something. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but there was definitely some tension in the VIP section of the VIP section.
And was he wearing purple at least?
No, and it's funny. There were no costumes. There were no airs. It was just kind of very normal clothing, as I remember. And I do remember that they said no recordings and no photographs. However, I did accidentally have a little digital recorder in my shirt pocket accidentally turned on. I don't know how that happened.
Uh-oh. So what did that recorder pick up?
A lot of nothing, because
clanking glasses and muffled talking.
Yeah, it was like that. Nothing audible that, I could put on the air or even share, because it was a nightclub. And downstairs, we were seated right in front of a big picture window that looked into the club down 3 more stories. So we were on the 4th floor looking down into a cave-like area with 3 other floors. And so people were all kind of looking up in that window, trying to get a glimpse of Prince as we sat there. Yeah, it was kind of wild. And I had a friend who was a television producer in Osaka. He's a brother. And he told me afterwards, he said, I was so jealous of you, man, just sitting right up there next to Prince talking. I couldn't even get in there. And I'm a television producer.
So you get to go in there with Prince. What happened to your date from earlier in the night, though? Did she get to come with you?
No, as I mentioned, I dropped her off. She wanted to go home. She missed out, She
missed out on Prince.
That's right. She totally missed out. And I'm sure she's listening to your program right now because she has good taste. Anyway, she wanted to go home. And I thought, well, she missed 2 chances. One chance to go to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in my suite. The other chance to go hang out with Prince for the rest of the night until about 5 or almost 6 o'clock in the morning.
That is incredible. Do you remember what Prince drank? He drink?
Yeah, no alcohol. He did not drink any alcohol. He was drinking, I think, like colas throughout the night.
This was early 2000s, right? So this was like reformed Prince era.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an incredible story, Kong. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Memory of a lifetime.
Memory of a lifetime, meeting Prince in Osaka. You and I met when we worked together at Tokyo FM. I was kind of a PA for your show on a Tokyo radio station, and we had a lot of fun celebrity encounters that I mentioned in my first book, Impossibly Glamorous.
Right.
We had Olivia Newton-John, Bananarama, Tatsuro Yamashita, a big Japanese singer, and a whole long parade of fabulous entertainers. Yeah. But one that really sticks in my mind is the time we met Stevie Wonder.
Oh, God. Oh, what a fiasco that was.
That was the definition of fiasco. Kong, could you please elaborate for the Tea with Charles listeners? What happened when we went to meet Stevie Wonder?
Now, I should say fiasco in as much as we went through a lot. We jumped through a lot of hoops, but in the end, we'll get to that. I'll save that until the end, okay? Anyway, I've known Stevie for many years, since way back in 1981 or 82. Actually, the first time I met him was in 1966 in a nightclub in Cincinnati, Ohio. He, of course, was from Detroit, Michigan. And Cincinnati is on the same expressway. What do you call that? U.S. highway? Interstate 75. So from Detroit to Cincinnati, it's just like a 2 or 3 hour drive. Anyway, he was performing on drums that night. And at that time, I think like the only song that he had out was fingertips and blowing in the wind. And I was so excited to see him. I went to shake his hand, and, that was our very first encounter. Then we met again in 1981 in Honolulu when he was coming there for a concert. And I made contact with him while he was in Japan on his way to Honolulu. Well, we met several times after that, but by the time he got to Tokyo this time, I think it was in the year, 2006, 2007?
2006, around 2006.
2006.
We were working together.
We were working together at Tokyo FM, and he was staying at the Westin Hotel in Ebisu area of Tokyo. Very beautiful area, very beautiful hotel. And they had a big press conference that morning. And it was in one of the conference rooms or ballrooms at the hotel, as I remember. And I guess there were probably, Charles, about 200 people there, all media people. And they were having a bit of a press conference. And Stevie was next to his brother, Milton. Milton, who is a good friend of mine because I set Milton up on a date in Hawaii when they came there one time for a concert. So
Matchmaker Kong.
Yeah. So Milton, of course, remembered me very well. And I was sitting in the front row. And people were asking questions, and I waited for a while before asking my question, raised my hand. Milton pointed to me, and I stood up, and I forgot what I asked him at that time. I have no memory of that. But Stevie recognized my voice. He said, Kamasami Kong. I said, yeah, you remember? He said, yeah. And that was the beginning. After the press conference, Milton came over to me, and he said, can you come up to the room? Stevie would like to talk with you after this press conference. And I said, sure. And I think you were with me at that time, too, Charles.
I was with you at the hotel with Stevie Wonder, and we weren't officially on the docket to interview him.
Right.
There was a slate of Japanese media outlets meeting Stevie Wonder that day.
Right.
Probably all the big TV stations, but our show was not. And I remember it was a little bit like Keystone Cops. They were like moving us between different hotel rooms before we could meet Stevie Wonder.
Right. Milton was moving us around because he wanted to make sure that we got in to see Stevie. That was his goal for that day. And Stevie, of course, wanted to be on our show on Tokyo FM, being like the biggest FM station in Tokyo, in Japan. So, of course, he wanted to do the interview. Finally, after, like you said, a Keystone expedition there in the Westin Hotel, we were told to enter the area where Stevie was seated on a sofa with a coffee table in front of him and a keyboard on the top of the coffee table. And so we sat down, we started to talk. Everything was going very well. And previously, I had met, let me see, what's the name of the keyboard? Oscar Peterson. Now, Oscar Peterson is one of the world's greatest pianists, truly one of the greatest. And I guess about a year before, I did an interview with Oscar asking him for his thoughts and opinions about Stevie Wonder. And I recorded that, of course. Now, I had that recording in my pocket ready to play for Stevie because I knew that Stevie also loved Oscar Peterson, but they had never met. So anyway, at a certain point during the interview that we were doing, I asked Milton, I said, Milton, can I play this little clip from my digital recorder for Stevie? He said, go ahead, Stevie's going to love it. So I played it, and it was Oscar Peterson talking about Stevie Wonder, saying, I've never met him, but I think he's truly one of the greatest musicians of all time. When all the other musicians were prostituting themselves doing disco, Stevie stayed true to his music, and I've always appreciated that about him. Stevie, after hearing that, melted. He was just like, where'd you get that? How did that happen? He was like that.
So Oscar Peterson's the guy that Stevie Wonder looks up to.
Yeah.
That's how incredible he is.
Yeah, that's how incredible. And I said, Stevie, have you ever met him? Stevie said, no, I've never met him. Can you set it up? I mean, Oscar Peterson. There's like two keyboard players in the world, Tatum and Peterson. And I really want to meet him. Can you set that up? I want to take a picture with him. I don't know why Stevie would want to take a picture with Oscar Peterson, but I guess it would be important to Stevie. Well, My ride has arrived. Can you hear
I'm guessing that's from here in L.A.
No, that's actually here in Tokyo.
They're just excited about Stevie Wonder.
I think the Stevie Wonder story excites
We're setting off alarms, Kong.
Yep. Anyway, Stevie was truly a gentleman. We got a great interview. And as I remember, as we did the interview, he was noodling around on his keyboard on the coffee table right in front of him on the sofa that we were seated on. And he started to sing a little bit. We captured a little bit of his music, singing music from his brand new album. I think the album was called For You or Love for You, something like that. It was totally magical to have Stevie Wonder right there singing to us in a private little area, right? Of course, on the other side of the room, there were cameras set up and there were other people waiting to get interviews. Finally, we were told that our time was up. We left. We went into another room. I called to the radio station and our director said, "It's wonderful, but we can't use it." Huh? We got this exclusive interview with Stevie Wonder and we can't use it? What's up with that? And our director, Fushimi-san, Mr. Fushimi, said, the record company says that we can't use it. Huh? You remember this, Charles, right?
I remember it because I almost started crying.
We were going back and forth. So we had this fabulous interview with Stevie Wonder and we were told we can't use it. So we went back to see Milton and Stevie standing right there. And I said, your record company guy over there, the record company guy was in the room with us at that time. You remember?
Yes.
We said, we were told by our director at Tokyo FM that we cannot use this interview because your record company guy there said that we can't use it. So Milton and Stevie both looked at the record company guy and I said, what's up with that? Can he use the interview? And in the room, the record company guy said, what did he say, Charles?
He said yes.
He said yes, right? In
Right.
front of Stevie and everybody. So we thought, okay, we're good to go. I think the next scene was we were in the lobby of the hotel at that time, waiting for Stevie and his brother to exit into their limousine. And we walked with them to the limousine. Stevie said to me, just before he got in, we were little chit-chat before getting to the limousine. And he said to me very specifically, he said, I want you to make sure to get that interview on the air. So then we called back to the radio station to our director and said, Stevie just told us that he definitely wants to have that interview on the air. And what did our director say?
I just remember at the end that we were unable to use this historical, wonderful interview with Stevie Wonder because of some Japanese record business politics. Where is the Stevie Wonder interview now, Kong? Where is it hidden away?
I have it. I have a digital copy of it on my computer. I have several different copies of it. I could share a little bit of that with you sometime if you'd like. Can't play the whole thing. I wouldn't want to do that. Don't want to make the record companies angry, but I'd be more than happy to make you and your listeners happy. Yeah.
All right. Well, exclusive from Kamasami Kong, let's listen to a snippet of the lost interview of Stevie Wonder.
Stevie, on your brand new album, A Time for Love, you have some great performances by your daughter, Aisha Morris. You also have Sir Paul McCartney and India Ari, who was just recently here in Tokyo. Plus, you have Prince on your song, What the Fuss. And what's the story?
Well, it was great. I mean, the way that Prince got on So What the Fuss was, we had been talking about this material and songs and stuff, and he shared with me some of his new material, and I shared with him some of mine that was going to be on A Time to Love. And I played him So What the Fuss, and he said, hey, man, I got to be on that. Got to be on that. And so it was great to have him on there as well as having En Vogue on So What the Fuss. So it was a lot of fun. Paul McCartney, we had talked. Sir Paul McCartney.
Sir Paul.
Yes. I had talked.
Do you call him Sir Paul?
Well, I think at appropriate times I would say that. But we're friends. And he call me Paul. What are you doing, Stevie? But we we were talking on the phone about something else, and I mentioned to him I had a song that I really would like for him to play guitar on. And I told him it was the title song of the album, A Time to Love. And he said, well, send me the Pro Tools file, the Pro Tools session. And I did, and he did a great job. He played the acoustic guitar. He played the electric guitar with the strumming thing. He also did some solo stuff. So it was really, really wonderful for him to take out the time to do that. And it fit really perfectly well with his song.
And you did a song with India Ari.
Well, that song, A Time to Love, India co-wrote with me, so it was really wonderful. She wrote a great lyric. I had the melody for a long time, the whole... But I didn't have a lyric for the song, and she when I shared with her the whole feel of it, because it's sort of like so it had like a sort of a ballady feeling to it, but I wanted it to be not really just a typical ballad, but something that really had a little rhythm to it. And I knew that I wanted it to be a song about love and about, a kind of place where sort of a world song. But it wasn't until I really came up with a title for the album, A Time to Love. Once I was just messing around with the melody. When will there be a time to love? And she wrote a great lyric for this song, so it was very, very, very wonderful, with our collaboration as well as her singing with me on the song.
So exclusively from Kamasami Kong, that was just a snippet of the lost interview of Stevie Wonder. So Kong, it's great to see you. I haven't seen you in almost a decade, probably, because I left Japan after the big earthquake in 2011. How have you been?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. I'm still doing radio programs, mostly from my home. Of course, because of coronavirus, I used to be flying back and forth to Osaka every week. I'd jump in a plane every Sunday night and go to Osaka, do 2 live shows on Monday and Tuesday. And after each one of those shows, I'd record shows for Wednesday and Thursday. And then Friday, I'd be doing shows in Tokyo and other cities around Japan from my laundry room here in Tokyo. Yeah, so I've been very busy.
That's great. You're keeping busy, Kong. It's wonderful to see you. I'm glad that you're still on the air, bringing your brand of entertainment and music to the world.
Well, Charles, I have some questions for you. I mean, we haven't had a chance to see nor talk to each other for a long time. So can I interview you for a little bit?
Yeah, ask me anything, Kong. Go ahead.
Right. So, folks, I don't know if you know Charles that well, but I know him quite well, having spent a lot of time with him doing radio shows in Tokyo. And after those shows, instead of taking a subway, a train, or a bus, or a taxi cab to our next destination, we would walk and we would talk. And we got to know each other very well as a result of that. And we had some great conversations after the program. Charles, as I know you, your real name is Charles Ayers from Kansas, is it?
That's right. Kansas City, born and raised.
Kansas City. But you've changed your name from Charles Ayers to Charles St. Anthony. How did that come about and why?
In show business, I always found Charles Ayers, my government name, to be, it was a little difficult for people. People cannot spell it. And if they read it, they cannot pronounce it. They always call me Charles Aries. They call me Iris. I had released my first book, Impossibly Glamorous, and I had been working on the second one. I was just ready to release it when I got a job to work as a contractor at the offices of Google near San Francisco. And I was happy because after I came back to the States from Japan, I had some intermittent employment. I had to reacclimate to the United States. And so I had been working these really low-level jobs, and suddenly Google asked me to come and be a contractor for a few months. I did not want to rock the boat. And I was like, okay, do I want to put out this second book under my real name, or maybe it's a good time to have kind of a stage name or pen name?
Pseudonym.
A pseudonym, exactly.
No.
I'd been going to this group meeting at the Church of St. Anthony in San Francisco.
Was that an AA meeting?
There were 12 steps involved. Sometimes I fell down the steps a few times, but there were 12 steps. And I thought, Charles St. Anthony, that sounds, it rolls off the tongue easily. Mm-hmm. And when I go to the dentist, they won't know who I am. My second book, San Francisco Daddy, it was a very straightforward discussion of gay life and dating and lots of 4-letter words. And I'm like, all right, I don't want to just, I'm sure all the Google people are very open-minded, but I was like, I just don't want to press my luck right at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a short-term thing that I did there at Google, but Charles St. Anthony stayed with me.
I love it. It's a great name. It's a great pen name, pseudonym. I think it works. I think it works very well. What's your process for writing a book? Are you using some software like Scrivener or something like that? Or how do you go about writing a book?
My writing process is I have like a notebook. I will just jot down, ideas as they come to me. And then once that notebook is filled up, I will kind of have a eureka moment. All right, this is how I tie it together. That's how it works. A lot of times I've kind of sketched out how I want the cover to look. I mean, this is all just self-published, so it's not like Simon & Schuster is called yet. But, it's my creative process. Some people seem to enjoy the books, so I keep writing them.
Well, as I understand, I'm looking at my computer right now, and I can see that Simon is listening to this program right now. Schuster is still asleep, but Simon is listening. So shout out to Simon of Simon & Schuster.
Shout out to Simon. Simon, wake up, Schuster. I'm 43, I'm single, and I'm renting. I need a phone call. Come on.
There you go. I'm sure, he's on the phone with his secretary right now saying, get Charles on the line. We need him as soon as possible. In fact, not only do we want to take his book and publish it, but what we really have in mind is that we'd like to turn this book into a musical. And what we want to do is, of course, after it becomes a musical, we want to put it on the big screen and make a record and bring Charles into it as the star. Yeah, that's what we want to do.
Wonderful. Let's put that thought out in the universe.
Now, speaking of stars, you are living now in a place, home of the stars. You're living in Hollywood. What the hell are you doing there, Charles? Delivering pizza?
How did I end up here, Kong?
You have an Uber bicycle? Are you riding it all over town?
Well, my most recent publishing, Beverly Hills Postmate.
Oh.
Ta-da.
Oh, yeah.
With a beautiful girl on the cover.
Yeah. What's the title again? I want to look that up in Amazon.
Beverly Hills Postmate. I'll definitely send you a copy, Kong.
Okay, please.
I used Postmates and delivery apps to explore what people were actually eating in Beverly Hills.
Oh, wow.
Because Beverly Hills is a place everybody's heard of, but do you know much specific about it?
No.
Can you tell me more about it than, it's an expensive place with some nice designer clothes?
Well, for example, give me 5 things about Beverly Hills that we don't know. Can you share that, or do we have to buy the book first?
I will let me see, 5 things about Beverly Hills. One thing you probably didn't know is that the original name of Beverly Hills was El Rodeo de las Aguas.
And what does that mean?
That means gathering of the waters.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
As you know, Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills is where all the famous shops are.
Right. Like
the Champs-Élysées in Paris or Omotesando in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing about Beverly Hills you don't know is that it's very small.
Oh.
It's only a few square miles. I I researched and wrote about it in the book, but it's only about the size of London Heathrow Airport.
Okay.
A little bigger than that.
Two facts. Well, you have three more.
The most delicious food I discovered in Beverly Hills, well, you'll have to buy it to find out what the best food is in Beverly Hills. But I would say for a nice lunch in Beverly Hills, you could go to a place called Wally's where you have a nice view of the street activity and all the fabulous people coming in and out of the shops and get some wonderful wine. And I'll have a Diet Coke since I won't be drinking. And
Wally's, Wallys?
Yes, and if you order Wally's in delivery, you will get a little package of seasoned popcorn. You can't beat that. Something free in Beverly Hills.
Unbelievable. And if you mention my name, they will only charge you 15% extra.
Yes.
All right, two more facts, Charles.
Two more facts about Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Another fact about Beverly Hills is I don't like driving it at night whatsoever because below Sunset Boulevard, which you know from the movie Sunset Boulevard, below Sunset Boulevard is kind of, nice houses, but not quite as extravagant as above Sunset Boulevard, which is where you have like the estates, like the Greystone Mansion that you saw in the movie Death Becomes Her. And it's been used in a lot.
The Beverly Hillbillies Mansion.
Oh, I don't even know where that is. See, my research wasn't up to snuff there, but
Beverly Hills, it's Beverly Hillbillies, right? It's got to be there somewhere.
I think it's in Pacoima, but I don't know if it's actually in Beverly Hills. It was probably in a studio in Burbank, but I'll have to look that up. It's probably on Google. But the reason I don't like driving Beverly Hills at night is above Sunset, you're up in the hills, what they call it, the hills in Los Angeles. And like it's all kinds of twists and turns and crags and you're on a cliff and it's not fun to drive. And I was thinking when researching this book that, these people in Beverly Hills would give me lots of great tips. But sometimes it would be just $1. And I'm like, all right, that's why they live in Beverly Hills. They don't waste money on tips. And another fact about Beverly Hills is
you've got two more. Two more.
Oh, I've got two more.
What's the population?
The population of Beverly Hills is 34,000 people.
Any laundromats in Beverly Hills?
I didn't see any laundromats in Beverly Hills.
No, okay.
But
there you go. All 5 facts.
Oh, wait. I have one other fact that I thought was kind of surprising is that Beverly Hills is a very diverse place because we see a lot of shows like Beverly Hills 90210 and it's like mostly Caucasian people. But I would say the majority of the time people came out to like get their food and whatnot. It was often Asian or African American or other people of color. And I was pleasantly surprised at the diversity that you find in today's Beverly Hills.
Well, a lot of people complain about all the homeless people in Los Angeles. What about Beverly Hills? What's the drug scene? Do you have a lot of druggies or gangs there? Are there hypodermic needles on the streets? Is there litter? What's the actual street scene like? Do you see drunks walking around? What's happening there on that level?
Beverly Hills is its own city within Los Angeles. It's its own city and it's completely surrounded by Los Angeles City, and except for West Hollywood City to its east. Because of that, you can't have they crack down. They don't let people loiter about too much. Here in LA, the big issue is that homeless people will set up a camp. They have a tent and they will put up a camp on a sidewalk. And there were YouTube videos of people putting up tents near the Beverly Hills sign and all kinds of stuff like that. So
what about street musicians or street performers? Do you have anything like that happening in Beverly Hills these days?
Beverly Hills street performers, I have not seen. I would see street performers in Venice or Santa Monica, where you're at the beach.
Right.
But Beverly Hills is kind of landlocked in the center of Los Angeles, so it's not. You don't see people busking for change or something like that. It's mostly very high-end shops, even though the rest of the transients and people they get moved along in Beverly Hills is the idea that I got.
What about taxi cabs? Or does Beverly Hills have any special kind of taxi cab?
Beverly Hills taxi cabs are a dying breed here in the U.S.
Oh.
You see them here and there, but it's mostly all Lyft and Uber.
Aha. Well, here in Tokyo, I can tell you the streets are filled with taxi cabs. I mean, at nighttime, there's like a traffic jam of taxi cabs, and we have these new kind of taxi cabs, the real tall ones that you don't have to sit down to scoot into. They're just kind of, they're very tall, so you don't really have to bend over that much to get into the taxi cab. You just need to just kind of, as you would sit onto a bar stool like that to get into the cab. Very fast, very efficient, and all electric.
Wow, that's fascinating. Is there a name for those standing cabs?
There must be. I can't think of it right now. But the reason that we have these new cabs, this whole new fleet of cabs, is because of the Olympics. We were anticipating thousands of people, thousands of tall foreigners coming in from countries all over the world who would not want to, try to climb into the back seat of a taxi cab, but rather just like sit onto a bar stool in the back of one of these really tall cabs. I'll have to send you some pictures. They're wonderful. They're completely wonderful and extremely clean.
That is so crazy. And just the entire concept that you're having this big worldwide event and foreigners can't come in to enjoy it. It's a shame, but I'm sure it will be a fun event. I'm rooting for Simone Biles and all of Team USA. Mm-hmm. And I bet it will lift people's spirits up.
Well, we hope so. We hope that's what we can do. There have been, I don't live too far from the stadium, and in fact, I can see it from my balcony, which faces Tokyo Tower. And I have a beautiful view of Tokyo, the city, and looking out towards the new stadium. And there are helicopters flying around and around and around throughout the day. I guess they're all just shooting, getting ready to shoot video for the Olympics that are coming up. So it's been very active with helicopters these days. But anyway, we're not talking about Tokyo. We're talking about you living in Beverly Hills. Hollywood.
I don't live in Beverly Hills. I drive through it sometimes. That's about it.
How far away are you from that big Hollywood sign on the hill?
Oh, I would say so I live near downtown LA, which is having kind of a resurgence nowadays. It used to be a place known for urban blight, but I live about 15 minutes from downtown, which would make, and downtown is about 20 minutes from the Hollywood sign, I would say.
Okay. Now, of course, time for you to drop some names. Living in Beverly Hills, living in Hollywood, living in Los Angeles. Drop some names of some of the famous people you have seen out on the street or out and about.
People who are out and about. Some famous names that I have seen. I have seen James Franco, who my eyes are bad because I was like, oh, is that Jeremy Renner? And the guy who was next to me is like, no, that's James Franco. And he had a big smile on his face, and he was walking with like two hot babes, like one in each arm. And he was walking down the street, downtown Los Angeles. I mentioned in the last episode of my podcast that I met Chrissy Teigen, who's in a lot of hot water, but I won't put you through my Chrissy Teigen story again. Okay. And what other fun celebrity? I have seen Courtney Love in West Hollywood.
Wow. Have you gotten any autographs?
I'm not the kind that goes for autographs, I guess. But I see quite a few celebrities out and about. When I saw Courtney Love, she was out with a little dog and a couple, they look like music business entourage people, but she had her little dog and she was walking around West Hollywood near the Abbey, which is probably the most famous gay bar in Los Angeles. And, West Hollywood's just kind of a nightlife area.
Right. So what's the hot club if I were to go to Los Angeles? Where should I go? I'm going to be there for one night. Let's just say I'm there for one night. I want to go to the hottest spot in Los Angeles or Hollywood or Beverly Hills. Where should I go?
You're just going to be in Los Angeles for one night?
Well, I'd be there for like a week, but I have one night to go out and play. Where should I go, Charles? Recommend a place.
Well, your nightlife places might be a little different than mine. So, but if you were coming, the first place we would go is Whiskey A Go Go, because it's the classic Sunset Strip rock establishment. It's still going strong. It looks like, I think that's where I would take Kamasami Kong to start off with.
Oh, very good. Actually, I have been there, and someone else took me there when I was in Los Angeles. I was there with a record producer, and we went to see Lee Oskar that night. Lee Oskar, a great harmonica player. He was in the band War. I don't know if you remember.
I know War. I know War.
And you remember the song Low Rider? Low Rider. He's the guy who did the harmonica part in that song. And actually, that's Lee Oskar. And if you look here on your screen, you can see that I have a Lee Oskar harmonica.
Very fun.
Right? It's got Lee Oskar. There you go. A little bit of O Susanna on a Lee Oskar harmonica.
I didn't know you could play harmonica, Kong. A man of many talents.
Oh, man. But, after a few drinks, going to a blues bar here in Tokyo, you'd be surprised. I can get down and play the blues.
Very cool. I like it. So I'm glad you would be happy with Whiskey A Go Go. Sorry I'm not more up to date on nightlife. Working in Hollywood and TV stuff, your day starts at like 4 or 5 a.m.
So, okay, I understand that. So you said you're doing TV stuff. What kind of TV stuff are you doing?
Well, I've done tons of I do voiceovers and I do extra work here in Los Angeles. And I can't discuss the recent tapings I've done, but some of the stuff that's already been broadcast, you can see me in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm sitting next to Larry David.
Oh,
yes.
I love that. That's one of my favorite shows. We watch that all the time here in Tokyo.
Oh, really?
One of my best friends is a film critic, and he lives right across the street, and he has this giant screen TV and these fabulous speakers set up because, of course, he's a film critic. So after we watch a film, we always watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's my favorite. When can we see you?
You have probably already seen me. I was in episode 99. It's called Beat Panic. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting next to Larry David and Vince Vaughn in a country club in the Valley. And it's an episode where his waitress has diarrhea. And she's telling Larry David this, and he says, "Nobody's down with diarrhea, Diane." And so episode 99.
That's just the funniest show. Larry David is just such a genius, isn't he?
That is my treasure that I got to work. I've done Curb Your Enthusiasm a couple times, but that's the time you could see me. And I was just in awe of just being around a comedy great, just watching him do his thing, take after take after take. And, he's just the master. And like everything was different, and they did a lot of ad-libbing. And I was just like, I bow down to Larry David. He was incredible to work with, for sure.
I can imagine. Well, it sounds like you're getting a lot of work, and you're working with a lot of very interesting people. I guess you're making a lot of money. Instead of asking you how much money you're making these days, can I ask you, what kind of car are you driving?
The type of car I'm driving. Don't be fooled. If I'm driving Postmates in Beverly Hills, I'm not making quite that much money yet. But I drive a Chevy Bolt, which is an electric vehicle.
Oh, okay.
And no emissions. I got a little kickback from the government.
I see. It runs on batteries?
It's all electric, no gasoline whatsoever. It's charging right now, and there's a lot of free places, and it's very economical to have a electric car if you can find one that's affordable. And I love my Chevy Bolt. It's good. It comes in the color Kinetic Blue is what it's called. Kinetic Blue.
And that is the color of your Chevy Bolt?
Yes, I chose it for its color. It zipped me around Los Angeles to take me to all kinds of fun Hollywood projects and delivering food in Beverly Hills.
Hey, Charles, you mentioned, you dropped some names about the interviews that we did here in Tokyo while working at Tokyo FM. Olivia Newton-John, Stevie Wonder, and Bananarama. I'll never forget the time those two girls came. Shioban and I forgot the other girl's name, but they were toasted, right? They were a little bit tipsy. Tipsy is the word, I guess, right?
Tipsy is the word. We saw Bananarama came into our radio show to do an interview. It was just before New Year's, and their party had already started.
Oh, yeah. And I remember both of us being from the USA, we called them Bananarama. And they were saying, no, it's not Bananarama, it's Bananarama.
It's Bananarama.
Yeah, so they spent some time trying to get me to say Bananarama, and they went into the giggles. But it was fun. Yeah.
I will never forget the Bananarama interview.
And then there was another interview that we did. Do you remember? This one you may have forgotten, with the Sai-Min guy, the ramen guy from Hawaii. Do you remember him?
I remember we did an interview with, is an elderly gentleman?
Yes, the elderly gentleman from Hawaii. Who
was his name Shiro?
Yes, exactly. Thank you for remembering his name. Very good. Shiro, he's huge in Hawaii. Hugely famous in Hawaii.
He's a big name in Hawaii.
Big name. Shiro. Shiro's Sai-Min.
What was he famous for?
Sai-Min. Noodles. Restaurant. Yeah. He had like the first big noodle franchise in Hawaii.
I love it. I'll have to try some Sai-Min noodles if I ever... Once I get that big tip on Postmates, I'm going to Hawaii. Switching gears, we're here with Kamasami Kong. As a creative, like you and I both know, you put out your heart and soul into a project, and sometimes it falls flat, right? Whereas the thing you just thought off the top of your head becomes a big hit. I was wanting to ask you, what were some of the things that were completely unexpected in your life that became hits?
I would say that one of the biggest things was a talent show that we did in Hawaii, which originated from, it was called Brown Bags to Stardom, but it started Brown Bags to Stardom. The reason it was called Brown Bags to Stardom is because we used to go out to high schools all over Hawaii, and we would put on talent shows. The kids from the high school would come to the auditorium. And of course, since it was lunchtime, all the kids would be having their brown bag lunches together with them as they watched the talent show. So it was Brown Bags to Stardom. But it had a very humble beginning in that I was working at a radio station called KORL, taking phone calls from kids who would call in to make requests throughout the night. And from time to time, one kid would sing a little bit over the phone or something like that. And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. It's interesting to hear someone sing over the phone. And because I think they would call in and they would say, can you play this song? It goes like this. Feelings, nothing more than feelings. And I thought, oh, interesting to hear somebody sing over the phone. So I decided to take singing requests, and people did that. And it was a big hit. And then I developed something called the Kamasami Kong telephone talent line. And I would take people calling in on the phone, doing everything from tap dancing on a table to singing together with an ukulele to doing duets over the telephone. It would be one call. I would be putting these calls together while the records were on the air. So in the background of the record on the air, I'd be building this talent show on the tape recorder behind me, right? So then at a certain point in the show, I would launch the Kamasami Kong telephone talent show. And there would be 5 or 6 kids singing a song. And of course, they would always be a little bit out of key. So I had a buzzer to buzz them off. So as soon as they would hit a sour note, I'd go, sorry, you are out of time. And I had a lot of sound effects in the background. People would be saying, "Oh, no, bro, that was terrible. Go home, cook rice better." Like that, right? All kinds of sayings like that. So I would move on to the next line. Basically, everybody got buzzed off. And the people in Hawaii loved that because it was just, it was cruel. But I was being cruel to be kind to my listeners. So anyway, that developed into a small television show with Robin Mann on her program called Romper Room, of all things. And then, we started a program on KKUA called Homegrown, in which we challenged all musicians in Hawaii to create a song and send it in. And we would play every song that was sent in to us on the air. And then at the end, we would pick, this was done in Los Angeles too. I forgot the name of what it was called in Los Angeles, but it was the brainchild of Ron Jacobs, one of the top radio programmers in the world. But his idea came kind of from what I was doing on the telephone. So we created this thing called Homegrown, and we got entries from all kinds of people all over Hawaii. And it started off with really bad songs coming in. I mean, like Mrs. Jones' third grade class would record a song altogether, and they sent it in on a lousy cassette. And we would play just a little bit of that on the air. But because it was so bad, it encouraged other people to say, "Hey, I can do better than that. I can do better than that." And it kept getting better and better and better until we had like 20 entries that sounded really good. And we pressed a record. And we started to play that record on the air. One thing led to another. That radio station fell apart. I was hired by another station called KIKI, and they said, let's do something similar, and we'll call it Brown Bags to Stardom. And that was huge. And that, again, turned into a record album. And from the record album, we turned it into songs that we would play on the air. Like between Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder, you would hear a high school student performing on the air. So these young kids became really famous from our radio station. And as they became famous, they started to have their own fans. So after playing the record on the air for about 3 months, we decided we should have a concert. And we did the concert at the Waikiki Shell. It was huge. And the television station got wind of what we were going to do, and they said, "Can we videotape this?" So it turned into a TV show. So it went from telephone talent line all the way into a concert at the Waikiki Shell into a TV show. Brown Bags to Stardom. Now, did any stars come out of that? Yes, one in particular, who you may remember from Wayne's World. Tia Carrere.
Wow, Tia Carrere was on your show in Hawaii?
Absolutely, yes. And if you go to my Facebook site, you can see that she's sitting on my lap in the studio at KIKI Radio. It's a nice picture. Don't worry, it's nothing bad.
What kind of song did she sing to win your talent show?
I think she did a cover of an Air Supply song called Here I Am, as I remember. And she just hit every note. I mean, when I heard her voice, it just rang. It was like, oh, this girl's got it. She's definitely got it.
I remember her singing in the Wayne's World soundtrack, and it was pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she's a fantastic singer. And she was in several other movies. Rising Sun was one.
I think Tia Carrere was recently on AJ and the Queen, which is a show that I worked on here in LA with RuPaul. And I think she's the villain in that movie.
Her real name, by the way, as she appeared in our talent show in Hawaii, was Althea Hanairo. Althea Hanairo is her real name. She's an actor, model, singer. Yeah, she's been in she's done very, very well. She was discovered in a supermarket in Honolulu, in Waikiki. She was in there shopping, and there was a television producer from Hollywood that was vacationing in Hawaii at that time, and he was together with his mom in the supermarket. His mom spotted Tia and said to her son, "You should have a look at this girl. She's gorgeous. She should be in one of your movies." He approached her, offered her a job on the spot. She went to Hollywood, and the rest is history.
That is a great story. So unexpectedly, Brown Bags to Stardom becomes kind of the America's Got Talent or Star Search for locally in Hawaii. And you helped discover Tia Carrera, one of the big stars in Hollywood.
Yeah. Glenn Medeiros came out of that as well. I don't know if you remember Glenn. Glenn had a big hit with Never Gonna Change My Love for You, the George Benson song. He did a cover of that. And we had some other groups that became very famous as well, but only in Hawaii. So, we launched quite a few careers from Brown Bags.
You know, you're still at it. You're still working. You're still hustling there in Japan.
Absolutely. My accountant in Hawaii said, you're at an age right now where you can retire and just relax and have a wonderful life. And I told her, I said, I am having a wonderful life. I don't need to retire. Everything I do, I enjoy. It's like a hobby for me. And I'm obsessed with what I'm doing. I love what I have this great opportunity to be able to do.
Well, you've definitely had a spectacular career, Kamasami Kong. I've loved hearing all your stories. You are just like a treasure trove of entertainment knowledge and history, and just such a talent and such a wonderful person. I'm so glad you joined me here on the Tea with Charles podcast.
T, I saw your logo, and it's actually a T. What's that stand for?
So T is a slang that means, it comes from the word truth. It's also kind of a gay slang, spill the tea, which means, give me some of the backstory. Let's hear what's really going on. So you can make the T stand for whatever you want to. You could say truth, you could say terrific, you can say tremendous. Just don't say terrible, okay? It will hurt my feelings.
I would never say that. It's been fun, Charles.
So Kamasami Kong, I know my listeners would love to find you on social media. Where can they find you online?
I think probably the best place to find me would be in Facebook. So if you go to Facebook, just do a search for Kamasami Kong. I'll spell it for you. Kamasami, Kamasami Kong. Kong is Kong. And as James Brown once told me, one more quick little story, Charles. Quick. Okay, James Brown, I was doing an interview with him, and at the end of the interviews, we give them a piece of paper, a little template that says, "Hi, I'm like so-and-so, and you're listening to Kamasami Kong on FM 802, right? Something like that. And so you would say, "Hi, I'm Charles St. John, and you're listening to Kamasami Kong." You've heard radio stations play these kind of things, right? And I gave the paper to James. James took the paper, he shook it, and he said, "I don't need no paper. I don't need no paper. I do this my way." And so he steps up to the microphone and he says, "Hi, this is James Brown. You're listening to Kamasami Kong on Funky 802. Kamasami, hit the button and you got to get something. Hit it, Kong. Hit it, hit it, hit it. Ow!"
Fantastic. I love all your stories, Cog. Well, everybody definitely go to Facebook, follow Kamasami Kong, hit the button.
And you got to get something.
Hit the button and you got to get something. Thank you very much, Cog. I appreciate having you here today, and thank you for your time.
My pleasure, Charles.
You take care over there in Japan, and make sure to keep us posted on the Olympics updates. I'll do the best I can. And you take care over there in Hollywood. Support the Tea with Charles podcast by getting your copy of my latest book, Beverly Hills Postmate, or become one of my Patreons to get exclusive content at patreon.com/Tea with Charles. Thank you for listening to the Tea with Charles podcast. Keep on rocking in the free world, and I will see you next time.
Ta-ta for now.